Hey everyone, it's time to come back for our weekly little session with the turnaround coach. I'm Sherry and I'm here to help you turn your business, your school, whatever your organization is, turn it around so that you can take your setback and turn it into a comeback. This week, I am excited to come and talk with you because there's been a few things floating around social media lately in regard to this. And so I think it's a very timely piece of information to talk about. Over the past few weeks, we've talked about that when you are working on a turnaround or a transformation, there are a few big areas that you really have to pay attention to. But we haven't gotten deep into the details of each of those areas. And so this week, I want to call this episode Knowing When to Cut Your Ties. I had to look at my notes there to see how I actually worded it. Knowing when you have to cut your ties. So over the past 16 years, working as a principal in 3 different communities, all challenging communities, you can imagine that I've hired a lot of people. Now, I believe that when you take someone on as your employee, as your person, as the leader, it's your responsibility to coach them, right? To build them. When I hire, I always tell people, I can teach you the skills you need. I can't teach you to care. That's something you can't teach. So when I hire, I look for people that believe in their mission, believe that they can have an impact, and have that good work ethic to be able to stay with it when they take on those hard responsibilities. Every leader is going to do it a little bit different. So you may have your own set of non-negotiables that you look for when hiring staff, but we all set out to do it the same way, to look for that one person that's going to be able to come in, learn how we do things, and then be able to execute them in a way that continues to move your organization to success. That's just kind of what hiring is all about. Now, we all do it about the same way. We onboard people, we give them an overview, we tell them our expectations, we hold them accountable. We have some progress monitoring systems in place to be able to make sure that they're moving in the right direction. However, what do we do when we just know that this is not your right person? I'm going to tell you a story. Years ago, I was probably in my 5th year as a principal. So I was at my very first school and I was going through the hiring process. And we were starting to notice that we were not getting as many candidates as we were hoping at our normal job fairs that we went to. So our more reputable job fairs. And I ended up with a last minute opening. And there was this job fair that we tended to stay away from because we didn't always see quality candidates. But at this point, I had this opening. I would rather go look and see if I could find somebody than put a substitute teacher in that position. So I go down to this job fair, and of course, it's full of people. And the more I talk to people, the more I'm understanding why it's full of people, because these were the people that had not yet gotten jobs. And we're talking the end of July, and schools here in Houston start the first part of August. So if you didn't have a job by this point, you know, there was something hindering that. There was a reason why you didn't have a job. So I go to this job fair and I meet this lovely girl. She's taller than me, louder than me. Just her voice was louder. Her tone was just louder, but she seemed to have all the right answers. She really talked about her work ethic and how she was not afraid of hard work and really wanted to get into teaching because it was something she had always wanted to do. You know, basically saying all the things that we want to hear as the leader, right? The person hiring, you want to hear, I love this. I can't wait. I'm going to work hard, blah, blah, blah. So I hire this person on after doing my references and everything, and the references were fine. So there were no red flags. And we get into about the 4th week with students. So went through 2 weeks of staff development and then 4th week of students. And I get a report of a situation. And then we take care of that situation. About 2 weeks later, I get another report of a situation. Now you can start to see, I'm saying every 2 weeks, this started to become a pattern. Every 2 to 3 weeks, something was happening. It was either something where a parent was complaining, a student was complaining, or a colleague was complaining. And it started to make me really wonder what was going to go on here, because thinking back to the interview process, she was great. She was fantastic. She knew exactly what she was telling me to be 100% true. Well, so then I did what I felt I needed to do at the time. And remember, I was about 5 years in, so it wasn't like I was a brand new principal. So I bring her in, I sit her down, and we go on a coaching cycle. I give her a plan. We have it all worked out. I'm so sorry. This is not what I wanted to have happen. This was harder than I thought. Gives me all the reasons why she's not performing where I want her to be performing. Okay, I'm understanding about that. And we get this coaching cycle going. So we have set points within the cycle to where she and I would meet after she would work with my instructional coach, and we would monitor and see how things were going. So about 3 weeks in, we have our first meeting, and she tells me this great story about how much she's learning and how she's been just participating in so many great things with the instructional coach, and the students are doing so much better. So I tell her, okay, well, tomorrow we're going to take an assessment. Let's see how the students do. I'm excited to see the results. It sounds like things are going well. I haven't had any complaints, which probably was the kiss of death, because the very next day when we take our assessment, all of her students fail. I'm talking all of them, 0% passed. And this was an assessment that was a unit assessment. It was based on the skills that she was teaching. So I have to go back and I have to start digging. What's going on? What's happening here? Did I fail as the principal? What's going on? So I get the instructional coach in, and we're looking at the data, and she said, well, this doesn't surprise me. She hasn't been meeting with me. And I stopped her right there. This girl had brought in documents stating that they had been meeting and this is what they were working on, when in fact, none of them were happening. Now, y'all, I have to tell you, teachers go on a 1-year contract. Every contract's a little bit different depending upon your years of experience, but you can't just walk in and tell somebody you're done, right? There are certain rules and regulations you have to follow. Why am I telling you all of this? I'm telling you all of this because at that moment in time, I knew it wasn't the end of the year. I knew this was going to make my life miserable, keeping her or letting her go, because the chance of finding an effective teacher at that time of the year was slim to none. And I had to start weighing my options, but I had to realize when it was time to cut the ties. And that was a time where it was time to cut the ties. What's the lesson here? Nobody ever wants to hire somebody thinking I'm going to have to fire them or get rid of them or coach them out, however you want to refer to it. We all have great intention when we go into the hiring process to find that one great person that's going to do a fabulous job, and they're going to be able to help make your life better, not more challenging. But that's not always reality. Knowing when you give support and knowing when you have to say, I don't think this is going to work, is a skill that you have to develop, especially when you're turning around an organization. Because if you're going to fail, you want to fail fast, right? So that you can figure it out and you can get it fixed before it affects your entire system. Had I kept that teacher on for the remainder of the year, I would have, number one, been dealing with problems every 2 to 3 weeks, right? Plus, now, number two, knowing that that teacher was not truthful with me and documented it, falsified the documents, that's a whole other issue. And now, number three, because that happened, the relationship between that teacher and the instructional coach had been severed. And who was going to actually support that teacher? So knowing that you give support when you can give support, and you cut your ties when you know you need to cut your ties. Why is this important? Y'all, I've seen it happen in both different directions where this can be detrimental to your organization. I've seen and I've been part of situations where I've waited too long. That I keep thinking, oh, it's going to get better. Oh, if I could just give one more support. Oh, I need to make sure that I've done everything I can before I let this person go. I've been there. But I've also seen on the flip side where you're one and done. You didn't do that right today, done. I'm not giving you any support to teach you. I'm not going to help you fix it. You're just done. And I don't think that to be an effective leader in a transformation, you can be on either ends of that spectrum. Yes, you are trying to do big things in a short period of time to get yourself back on track. But people are also going to be the ones that help you do that. And if it's because somebody just doesn't have the skill, that's a place where you can go in, do some support and do some coaching and get them where they need to be. But then understanding, okay, you've done what you need to do. Now it's time to cut your ties before you waste too much time going back over and dealing with the same kind of issues and the same kind of problems. So, little something to think about this week as you're thinking about transforming your organization, especially if you're in a place where you set out to do great big things in the world with opening your business, taking on a new role at a new organization where you are the leader. You didn't go into it just to be mediocre. You went into it to do these great things, right? And to accomplish all of your goals and dreams. You went into it to be able to make that organization the best that it can be. And somewhere along the line, something has come into play and you're having to turn that setback into your comeback. You can do it. I know you can. I've been part of turnarounds and they're doable. They're absolutely doable. But being in a position where you know that the person is not going to make it, you have to be able to accept that although you may love them as a person, you may feel like, oh gosh, maybe I didn't give enough. You got to know when is when and be able to cut those ties. All right. Have a great rest of your week and I'll see you next week right here on the Turnaround Coach.